Alright everybody, it's time for part 2 of my favorite demos from NextFest of February 2025. This is just only part 2, we got many more to go, but here are some more great indie games worth your time to check out during the event. We are starting things off with Gentoo Rescue. This is a sliding box, or I guess sliding animal, puzzle game, where your mission is to get the different colored penguins or other critters to their respective goals. If you mess up, you will of course have to restart the puzzle, and the challenge is that once they start moving, they will not stop. While the game starts off very basic, with you moving around on a map in order to get to each new puzzle, you'll soon quickly discover that the map is a puzzle in of itself, and sometimes to move around you must go into puzzle maps within puzzle maps in a kind of puzzleception in order to try and get back to the main puzzle in order to move things along to get to the next series of puzzles. This one, on the brain melty scale, I would rate it very high, as you'll need to be constantly trying to keep track of the different rules and the different penguins that you'll need to make use of. If you are a fan of sliding puzzle style design, this is an easy recommendation, but don't come crying to me if your brain starts to feel a little overheated despite the very cold environment. We're leaving the puzzle solving behind to get some good old-fashioned action with Nitro Express. This is kind of like a 2D, almost like a Gunstar Heroes-esque style game. When a city full of autonomous drones has an issue when the drones go out of control, it is up to, of course, two high school girls with military-grade weapons to save the city. Our gameplay here is your run and gun variety. You'll be able to choose from different weapons and kind of special items before you start a stage, and then it's going to be up to you to run, shoot, roll, and blow up anything that gets in your way. I love the detail and the animations in this one. My main issue is that the enemy bullets tend to kind of like blend into the background. I found it very hard to kind of focus on them when there's a lot of things and explosions and all that happening to you along the way. But definitely a very solid take on run and gun from what we've played. So if you're in the mood for a little bit of shooting, then definitely give this demo a try. We now go to Mother Machine. This is the next game from the developers of A Curious Expedition, and we are not doing anything turn-based this time. This is a 1 to 4 player kind of action platformer style, where you play as critters who have been formed by, well, the Mother Machine in order to explore a planet, reactivate satellites, and try and, well, not get destroyed along the way. The basic rules is that you can walk, run, climb on most objects, and you're looking to grab crystals that are used to power up different generators, and then activate the kind of exit door, which everyone must get to before time runs out. Complete an area and you'll make permanent progress. You can also upgrade your different creatures with new mutations that will allow them to give them additional abilities and kind of help the team. As a one-player game, I found this to be a little bit on the basic side. This is definitely one of those games that screams at least 2 to 3 other players to really get the platforming craziness going. So, if you do have some friends and you want to do some cooperative platforming together, I would definitely recommend you give this one a try. We now go to The King is Watching. This is a kind of roguelike tower defense building game, if that makes any sense. You play as the king, who apparently rules his kingdom like the Eye of Sauron, and it's up to you to defend your land from incoming invaders. How this one works is that your gaze, which is represented by kind of like the golden outline, will affect what buildings are actually doing something. So if you want to cut some wood, you need to be watching your lumberjacks. If you want to sell stuff at the market, watch the market. And you'll need resources in order to construct more buildings and structures, which you will then need to change and avert your gaze in order to activate. The building or unit construction buildings need to consume specific resources, and then they pump out units to a specific limit. There are kind of artifacts and passives you can unlock. There is metagame progression that we did not get a chance to see during this demo. This one I would say is on the difficult side. You see, the challenge is that the starting 3 tiles you have access to are not enough to kind of get your basic economy structure without having to keep moving things in and out of them. You'll be able to upgrade how many tiles you can look at along with other features, but they will of course cost more resources, which you of course have the ticking timer of more invaders coming to get you. This one I would say is not for someone looking for an easy to get into game, but if you like your city building or your tower defensing to come with a lot of challenge, then definitely give this demo a try. We now switch to some dungeon crawling with Repose. This one I would say is kind of a mix between the old school dungeon crawler with a puzzle game. You have been tasked by a mysterious corporation to go deep underground to find oxygen tanks, but something is wrong. There's no one around, and people keep telling you that there's something in the dark, but don't worry too much about it. So the rules here is that each bed that you find is a checkpoint. Every time you take a step, you are consuming oxygen. If you run out of oxygen or one of the things get you, then you will return to the previously accessible bed. Now, you'll be able to unlock different doors and find other things that act as permanent upgrades, but you need to be kind of always making progress. I am very intrigued by this one. I did find it a little bit awkward in terms of learning how you're supposed to deal with enemies when you're approaching them, as it feels like it's in real time despite the turn-based nature of things. Now, a more pressing concern, which I don't know if this is going to be in the full game or not, is that there are no in-game saves. Instead, you must write down the passcode that you can use to kind of restart your run when you leave the game. I'm not a fan of that. I know that's, again, very old school in design, but I would appreciate having an in-game save feature. I love the kind of like old school aesthetic, and the animations can be quite interesting and weird as well. If you're a dungeon crawling fan looking for something a bit on the more darker and different side, then you definitely want to give this one a try. And I'm looking forward to seeing like where this one is going to lead when it is released. And now we swap over to Demon Tides. This is a sequel to Demon Turf, the very tentacle, very challenging, and off-the-wall 3D platformer. In this one, we move away from the City of Demons to the High Seas, trying to find our main character's father. And to do that, we're going to have to explore the ocean, do lots of platforming, and get good at jumping. The movement tech of the previous game returns, as you'll be able to mix and match your different jumps, dashes, and forms in order to move around the environment in a variety of ways. The new structure here is that you have the ocean and different islands and things to find, acting as your quote-unquote levels. Each section kind of reminds you of that of the kind of structure of like Mario Galaxy, or even something like Wind Waker, where the island is kind of its own microcosm of a level with challenges and stuff unique to it. Complete everything in that section, and you can also unlock time trial challenges, and get what you need, move on to the next, and rinse and repeat. My main issue with this one is that I'm just not a big fan of this kind of movement tech. It's very much about like dashing and constant momentum. So it's very hard, I found, to make like minute adjustments. You see, once you hit your dash or you do your jump, you are off to the races, and it's so easy to overshoot your target in this one. If you enjoyed Demon Turf, this is a very easy recommendation. And if you didn't play that one, I would recommend just going right to this one, as the improvements both in terms of visual and structure I think definitely warrant this one a play. And I'm curious, for those of you who did play this and the previous, how did you find the jumping physics and the jump tech in it? Let me know down in the comments, but otherwise, this is a fantastic and potentially very challenging platformer to enjoy. And we go from tricky platforming to puzzling puzzles with Chromagun 2 Die Harder. It is time to once again go back to a mysterious facility where they have created an impressive paint-based gun that shoots different colors, and no weirdness or strangeness will come along with that. As with the first game, puzzles will involve you painting different surfaces and different objects different colors. If the colors match, it will act as kind of a magnetizing force and pull the object towards it. As the game goes on, more and more rules will be introduced, things that can hurt you, and of course things get stranger and stranger still. In terms of the difficulty, I will put this on the moderate to challenging side. Since you only have to deal with the different colors, it's more about figuring out or keeping track of what the color wheel and how things work, but the puzzles are easily resettable and it shouldn't cause you too much trouble. There's of course additional secrets and things to find. I am curious to see where they will iterate on the design from the previous game. Will they throw more colors at us, or even additional painting based things? Still, if you enjoy the first game or you're in the mood for a little bit of more kooky first person puzzle design, then definitely give this one a play. We switch from painting puzzles to sliding with Sliding Hero. This is another in the kind of you can't stop moving once you start sliding style of puzzle design. But the twist is that this is presented in kind of like a Zelda-esque world, where you must explore, solve puzzles, fight monsters, and more. How this one works is that enemies will have different ratings for health and defense, and you'll need to find items within each stage in order to give yourself enough power in order to deal with the enemies. Hit an enemy that has too much attack and you have enough armor, and you're dead. You'll explore the mysterious island, trying to find clues, lore, and more in order to uncover its mysteries. I really like the concept of this one. We didn't get to see, I think, too much advanced puzzles, and just how much action will there be in these puzzles, and how much puzzle will there be in these actions. Still, very great concept, and I would definitely give this one a try if you're looking for another more, open-ended take on your sliding puzzles. We now go to some more combat with 9 Kings. This is kind of a mix between a deck builder and an auto battler. Your job is to defend your kingdom from other kings trying to take it over. Each round, you'll choose from different cards from your own deck or cards that you get from the invading king in order to plant down on your field. Buildings can provide damage, defense, or support surrounding characters. Units can, of course, do damage. And having multiple copies of the same unit can upgrade at least up to level 3. There are bonuses you can acquire, and the different kings have their own special cards and rules to them. So the yellow greed king gets cards that are related to boosting based on the number of gold, or the amount of gold you get. Now, from playing this one, the auto battler in its nature is that you really don't have too much control over your units. It's just basically one army slamming into the other one. And it feels like one of those games where you're going to win until you just lose, and then you are just outright dead. I like the different card synergies and the design here, and I'm interested to see where it will lead in the main game. So I'm going to give this one a recommendation for the deck builder or auto battler fans in the audience. It's time for our first of, I'm assuming, many Metroidvanias we'll be playing during Nextfest with Twilight Monk. This is a kind of hand-drawn, very beautiful looking Metroidvania where you play as a young guardian. When your rival is trying to bring about the end of the world, it's up to us to save the day, using this kind of pillar that we fling at anything that gets in our way. The basics of Metroidvania design are full and present here. You'll find upgrades, get different health and special weapons. The kind of unique flavor of this one is that instead of exploring just in 2D, you'll go into kind of a top-down, almost like 2D style open world map, similar to that of like the old like Zelda 2 game, where you complete with getting into random encounters. This one has a lot going for it. While it doesn't like want to be too much on like the super challenging side, this could be another great entry in the Metroidvania genre if you're looking to hold yourself over whenever Silksong is released, which may even be out by the time you're watching this video, no one knows. Still, a very solid Metroidvania and another easy recommendation from the event. We go to a little bit of some coziness with Squeakross. Home, Squeak, Home. That was not easy to say either. This is a kind of mouse-based take off of Picross, when you play a cute mouse who has moved into their new home that has no furniture whatsoever. But it turns out that in order to get new furniture, it's as easy as, well, solving Picross puzzles. Each new puzzle you solve gets you another piece of furniture that you can then put into your house however you see fit. Now, if you're hoping for, again, high stakes play or anything that's like beyond like the normal rules of Picross, or just anything more actiony, this is definitely not going to be the game for you. But if you are a fan of Picross and looking for a very cozy one to enjoy, and you like home modeling along the way, then it is an easy recommendation. We go from cozy to some horror with The Last Report. This is kind of like Papers, Please the horror version. You play a park ranger on the night shift, where your job is just to file reports about what's going on in the park during the day, but something is wrong. The reports are getting more and more disturbing, the lights keep going out, and there may be something out there coming to get you. I like the aesthetics and the overall look of this one. My main concern from the demos, I didn't get to see anything that I guess would be like actually like player affecting. It just felt like I was just doing reports until the next little bit of story came about, and there really wasn't too much interacting anywhere else. There's another one that I'm interested to see where it will go when it is released. If you're a fan of the paper pushing of Papers, Please, but looking for a little bit more bite or clawing or other things to go with it, then give this one a play. And for the last game of our video, we have Deck of Haunts. You play as a haunted house, and you are trying to keep those annoying humans out of it, and you will do that either by driving them insane, or just murdering them the good old-fashioned murder house way. The game is split between day and nighttime phases. During the daytime, you'll place rooms and buy new rooms that you can set up. At nighttime, you must use your different cards in order to either do health or sanity damage to the different humans. They'll have different perks that can either make it easier or harder to deal them in specific ways. The different rooms you place down can also give you additional functionality. And I love the theme and tone of this one. Now, where I did have some difficulty is trying to figure out like how their behavior works for the different humans, as they'll investigate different rooms, and you have to keep them out of your heart room in order to avoid damage. If they see a dead body or they make it to the heart, they'll run away, and if you don't stop them, they'll come back even stronger. So it was a little tricky trying to figure out like, okay, if I set up into like a 3-room or a room with like 3 different doors, which door will they go into? I'm curious to see where this one is going to go in terms of like there will be any meta progression or additional mechanics and rules to go on top, but a very intriguing take on the deck builder. So another recommendation if you're in the mood for some horror during the winter season. And with that, part 2 of our video comes to the end. We'll be having way more parts coming this week. Let me know what you think about these games down below. Come back later tonight for our next edition, and we'll continue this Nextfest thing for a while. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.